welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo and AJ coming at you live. Day 2 of free agency, and the Avs have still technically, I guess if you count Georgiev, they signed him, even though it was a trade from outside the organization. At the NHL level, no signings outside of their own organization. And there's a very real possibility that that continues depending on how things shake out in the market. So we'll see exactly how it plays out over today or possibly tomorrow or maybe the next couple of days.
Really thought we were going to get an answer by this time today.
Yeah,
but,
I'm a little surprised.
Things are still in the works, and of course, this is no criticism of anybody out there still making a decision.
No,
I'm not sitting here like, I wish these guys would hurry up and, I do, but it's fine. They've earned this right. This is how free agency works.
Totally understand it. Just would like to know the answers.
Yeah. I think we should definitely start today with the Johnny Gaudreau thing.
Yeah,
because it was just so crazy.
The weirdest part is players have gone to weird places. Players have selected weird things to go to, but no one had said anything about Johnny Gaudreau going to Columbus. It was like, all right, it's down to New Jersey or New York. New Jersey or New York. And then 30 minutes before he decided, they were like, well, I'm hearing something out of a Columbus all of a sudden. And then next thing you know, he's fully signed in Columbus. So it's really, really strange, to say the least. AJ, you and I were talking about it at Dev Camp today. Totally understand him wanting to get out of Calgary.
Yeah, like you can always understand when a player's like, look, I've been here for a long time. I've put everything I've had into this. I'm good. Like it's time for me to move on. You know, for whatever reason. It doesn't always have to be a slight against Calgary, as much. Think about how fondly I think of Texas, and I would never live there again.
Yeah. So like that side of it I get, but I just don't understand what convinced him to go to Columbus, especially as he went into this free agency market saying, I want to go somewhere I can win. Does he really see Columbus as that team?
Yeah. So like what we've talked about is this morning was the things that drive decisions in the NHL.
Yep.
In player movement conversations. It's geography, it's money, and it's relationships. And winning is somewhere tied up into one of those three. With every decision, winning is always like, no guy has ever gone into the market and goes, I'm going to Buffalo because I love losing games. So when you consider those three things, right? He leaves money on the table. Geographically, you understood his interest in the Flyers, the interest from the Flames, or the
New Jersey,
the Devils. Yeah. Thank you. So you're like, okay, this makes sense. He's from that area. Okay, this is all whatever. And guys go back east in general a lot, and they're like, look, Boston's like an hour plane ride away from where I'm actually from, so it's fine. And then you have, so there's geography, there's money, and then you have relationships where everybody knows somebody on some team, right?
Sure.
The way these guys grow up, they play on national teams and they do all this. Like, of course, there's like some sort of relationship there. But with this one, there was not one single major tie. And let's be like, I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging Columbus here, but the Blue Jackets organization is kind of an anonymous one in the NHL.
Yep.
It's one of the more overlooked cities. If you asked an average NHL fan to name every team, Columbus might be the last one that they come up with because people just sort of forget it's there, right? And it's it's so interesting. Yeah, everybody has decided to latch on to this children's hospital thing because we have to explain it somehow. And it's just, yeah, he's been friends with Eric Robinson for 20 years. Great. He left $15 million on the table because Eric
He's
Robinson,
friends with a
he
dude.
and,
Yeah.
he and Eric Robinson go way back. Like, it wasn't like he left $3 or $4 million on the table. He left a gigantic amount of money just sitting out there.
Reportedly, in some cases, allegedly, like 12 million plus dollar difference.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. It was just, to me, I started putting these pieces together last night and thinking about it, and it just was so interesting to me that there was not there wasn't, because when I say relationships, I mean like this guy played for a coach here, this guy was recruited to a college by a guy who's an assistant, or like whatever, right? Like there wasn't like he and Eric Robinson, but like he and Zach Werenski played on a world championship team together. How many other guys were on that team? Like,
yeah,
you have a relationship with all those other guys, like how many of those teams, how many of those teams were interested in him? So it's just like an interesting, super out of left field, because anytime, especially in the NHL, when a guy goes to free agency, you always hear about like mystery teams and stuff. And never does the mystery team win out. Like,
right.
it's always the teams that we've just sort of connected. And so this Johnny Gaudreau to Columbus thing is one of the more, to me,
One
I think
that,
it's one of the more interesting and fun stories in the NHL in a long time. One that nobody truly saw coming, and the reasoning behind it. Like, it was so weird to me. Even Jarmo Kekalainen's
yeah,
like,
that's.
he was quoted
Oh, oh,
today
oh, okay.
as saying, "Are you serious about this?" Like, it's so interesting to me. I liked it. I wanted to start our show on it today because I just thought it was one of those things that, like, wow. It and like Columbus, when Parise and Suter went to the Wild, they cited the Wild have the strongest farm system, as well
Well,
as it being them going back home to Minnesota where they were from. So
sure.
there were like a lot of big ties there, right? And you look at Columbus. They don't have like a farm system
They're
that's like popping with, like, it's fine, right? Like it's
they're not
fine.
particularly on the up. They're kind of an amorphous organization that.
Yeah, like they're there. They've got some guys that they've drafted who, hey, this guy looks like a good young player. They've got some nice players in the NHL. They've got a couple of guys on the way, but they're not one that you think of, especially in an East that had 8 100-point teams last year.
Yeah,
They're not one that you think of as like,
really pushing towards something
yeah,
there.
like
Yeah.
Detroit made all the noise yesterday. Ottawa made so much noise yesterday. Did
Yep.
Columbus, just by virtue of signing by far the best player out of those teams, like did Columbus sort of sneak ahead of those teams with this signing? Like, it's interesting. It's fun. I I'm curious to see. I expect that the bottom of the Eastern playoff race drops a little bit
I think
because
it will too. Yeah.
we've never really seen.
That it was just insanity this year.
Yeah, the disparity was so big. There was no middle class there.
Um,
So
y-
it was
you know,
it was interesting, man.
and this is purely speculation, just to be clear, but it is interesting. You always wonder. You hear about how much of a circus the media is in Canada, and Calgary's not Toronto. I get it, but it's still a Canadian hockey team, and they're always under so much scrutiny there. I do almost wonder if more of an unknown team like a Columbus is a bit of an allure for someone like him to not quite get as dogged by the media at every possible turn, you know?
Yeah, well, and like he's been, like, people have talked about him. I don't know him at all, like, so
Same, yeah.
no personal anything here, but um he's been talked about by media people as being, more of a shyer personality and a guy that doesn't necessarily want us, want to be in front of that kind of throng all the time, right?
Yep.
Um, so you could see it, but you could also see where the teams he was going, like the teams that were being talked about. The New Jersey Devils aren't like a gigantic media market.
It's
Yeah,
true.
Philly would have been a tougher
Pretty
play.
big.
There's a big spotlight there. The Islanders are kind of perpetually in the Rangers' shadow.
Yeah, they're
You know,
always second fiddle there for sure. Yeah.
not playing in like the heart of New York, playing where
Yeah.
they do, kind of puts them in sort of this weird, like they're in New York, which is sort of a glamour destination, but they're not like
The
New
center of
York's
attention, New
team.
York. Yeah.
They're the Mets.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I think it's interesting stuff. And then Columbus, like that's like as anonymous as it gets.
Yeah. It'd be
So,
pretty.
and for hockey reasons, he could have played with Matt Barzal. He could have played with Jack Hughes. Uh, I guess in Philly, I don't know who he would have played with. I
Yeah.
guess Kevin Hayes. But it's in Columbus. Who's he going to play with? Because I know somebody in chat mentioned Ken Johnson's going to be sick someday. Like I really like Ken Johnson. We have no idea what that
But
guy's going to be in the
yeah, he's got
NHL.
to get there first.
Yeah. So I really don't know. I guess he's gonna Roslovic and
With
are he and
Voracek on the
Line
other wing, maybe.
are
Yeah.
he and
I don't
Line gonna
know.
play together? And what do they do about Line now? It's gonna be interesting. So I thought that was a really fascinating signing. Just the match between the player, the city. There's almost always something that links these together, and this one felt totally out of left field. And you got to really respect that Johnny Gaudreau had the confidence and the stones to take an unconventional route and just
He,
say, yeah, I'm doing what I'm
he,
doing.
he very clearly went where he wanted to. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and it was interesting to hear all the conversations where he was like, "Look, I've talked to a bunch of players who have played in Columbus, and they all raved about it.
Yep.
They love it. It's this and that, whatever." So I'm really glad that the Josh Norris news is the big news happening during our show.
That one we don't care quite as much about.
Yeah, for sure. It's
But
yeah, that's a good deal for Ottawa. Great for Josh Norris.
yep.
The Sens just continue to do their thing.
Yep. They're still the winners of free agency in the offseason to me so far. But
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean for me, man, it I think it might be Columbus, even though they gave Goodbranson that brutally bad
yeah,
four
that
by
thing is
four deal.
gnarly. But you get Johnny
Brutally
Gaudreau, and
bad.
that helps quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean when you get the best player and it costs you just money,
Yep.
a good chance for uh good chance for him to do something cool. Good chance
Yeah.
for the organization to just get a lot better. And we'll get to see what he looks like. Not there in Calgary,
Yep.
and
Is he still the 100-point guy he can be, or is it
yeah, I mean,
does
I
it
would
look a
I would
little
say
different?
if you're banking on him continuing to score 100 points, I'm gonna bet on the under for this
Yeah,
first
me
year,
too.
but no idea how it's gonna go for the rest of the time there. They could totally pop off and it could be awesome, but really, just really appreciated. We don't get to see things like that very often in the
It's
NHL, and it
true.
was
It's
it
true.
was it was it was wild.
So we are brought to you by Green Chef. Green Chef is a certified meal kit company, SCCOF certified, and they make eating well easy with a bunch of different meal plans to fit whatever your lifestyle is, whether it's keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, and many, many more. They have plans to match your balanced eating style, even if you just want to eat better meals. Generally, Green Chef is a great option for you. So go check them out today. I had the opportunity to have them. I have to say their proteins are so good. Like if you go get their chicken and their meats, they are genuinely significantly more tasty than some of the other options out there. Like um, what are they called? Blue Apron, that's one, right?
Yeah,
Uh, Hello Fresh, the other ones like that. I really liked Green Chef meats. I do have to
HelloFresh
shout those
sends
out.
me mail.
Really?
Like they mail me offers, and I'm like, This makes me not want to use you because I have to throw this away every
Physical
week.
mail.
Yeah.
So make sure you go check out Green Chef. They use organic ingredients, of course. They're all sustainably sourced, so you can feel good about how it got to your table. Of course, a bunch of other stuff as well. They make sure their carbon footprint is as low as possible. They're reducing food waste across their entire brand, so you can do that as well. Every week, they give you 24 changing recipes. So even if there's some things you might not like, they give you other options that you can switch, mix, and match. Make sure you get stuff that you're looking for. And obviously, the whole allure of these things is it makes cooking super easy. My wife loves them because she gets to come home from work, crack open the box, throw everything in the pan, dinner's ready. And it's a quality dinner too. It's not like a microwave dinner or anything. It's fast and it's good. So be sure to jump on it today. You can get in with Green Chef when you head on over to their website. Go to greenchef.com/DNVRAvs130. Be sure to use that DNVRAvs130 code to get $130 off plus free shipping. Again, that's greenchef.com/DNVRAvs130 to get with Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Once you've checked out all of that amazing stuff from Green Chef, which please do, you can also head on over. Maybe you have something you want to watch on the television while you're eating your Green Chef. Avaca TV. Boom. Avaca.tv. You can go over there, use the DNVR code, get TV for just $15 a month for the first 3 months. You just plug it in. It comes with a little box. It goes right into your TV. It's super easy. You don't have to mess with any of the streaming from your computer or any of that nonsense. It has altitude. It has AT&T Sportsnet, and it has national channels. So it's got you completely covered for all of your Colorado sports. Highly recommend if you haven't tried it yet. Even after the first 3 months, it's only $25 a month. So it's way, way cheaper than any of the other cable or dish or any of those other options. So check out Avaca TV today. It's EVOCA.TV to find it and get hooked up here in Colorado. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We will get to Naz in a second. First, the other news circling around the Avs is it does sound like there's a significant interest in them bringing back Jack Johnson. I think most people would agree they probably do need a seventh defenseman. Is Jack Johnson really the right answer, though?
I mean, I can see where, I don't know, man. For me, it feels a little hubrisy.
Sure.
Look, you're an organization that relies on analytics to make smart decisions and find value places. And Jack Johnson on a minimum contract, like it was a passable player. But then I've said this a few times in pieces I've written, even in the last week. um, but the Jack Johnson, if you go and you look at his impact, uh,
Not good.
he made every pairing with every like significant partner worse.
Yep.
Right before the show, I was reading the numbers to Rudo just going down the line. And one of his most common partners was Sam Girard, and just a brutal effect. And we'll put it this way: they brought out the worst in each
Yeah.
other
Both
because
were better
Girard's
away.
impact on Jack
Yeah.
Johnson was also bad.
Yep.
So not just bad, man. It was just Jack Johnson hurt hurt all of the pairings that he was on, and then you go and you look at his isolated numbers, and you're like, these aren't that bad. They're fine. But when he's making every pairing that he's on worse, it's just a tough go.
Yep. It's
So it's I don't know.
it's in a tough spot to just given where he's at in his career. He's already 35. You've already seen the
Mhm.
aging curve start to hit him. It's not like he's going to buck the trend and suddenly get better.
I guess for him, he's like, hey, I just want a Stanley Cup, and I really, if that team wants to bring me back and pay me to keep playing, then great. If they don't, then I guess I could be done.
Yeah, from Jack Johnson's side, totally. Like, are you kidding me? If I'm a fringe NHL player and the Avs come knocking on my door, I am signing that contract immediately.
Yeah.
Not thinking about it, but I just don't. It's really, really hard to see how he fits well into the Avs. And again, he's a 7th D. If the Avs are healthy, he's not going to be in the starting lineup, but everyone knows better. You're not going to be healthy the entire season. You
Yep.
probably won't be healthy for the majority of the season. So,
Yep. Well, and right now your 7th D is Curtis McDermott. Your 8th is Jacob McDonald.
yep,
I know people in chat were like, I would prefer McDonald. They don't. Very clearly, they don't.
yep,
Otherwise, he would not have AHL money baked into his deal, and Curtis McDermott would.
yep.
So that's just not the reality. That's the hierarchy right now. Is they've got a very clear cut top 6, and then like an off the cliff, like to what's next. So they definitely need a 7th D, and it sounds like Jack Johnson. Like everybody's comfortable with everybody. He played for plenty of the playoff run.
I do wonder if they do see McDermott as more of a 13th forward than a 7th D, to be honest. But
I think they see him as both
sure.
for less than $1 million. So that's it. Like I think that's the appeal of Curtis McDermott for them, is that he did both, and he put the work in, and he saves them a roster spot, because it's not like they never get to 23 guys anyway.
Yeah, they've almost always ran 22.
Yeah. So. And when you have a guy that plays both positions, well, now he could be your 8th D, but your 13th forward. I do agree. He's probably their 13th forward.
I mean, there's a reason they're going out and targeting a 7th D and not a 13th forward. I'll put it that
right.
way.
Yeah, and part of the reason that we're talking about this is that they don't even have their 12th forward right now.
Yep.
Because right now they've got a pretty full, like pretty filled out lineup, and then there's the second line center job, which remains open. And that's
the big question mark here.
Yep.
Let me ask it to you this way.
Okay.
Is it the Avs doing a good job of being patient, or is this Nazem Kadri going full bachelor and like is standing at the altar with a bunch of roses, handing them out to teams one by one right now?
I mean, if he is, this is an even bigger missed opportunity to turn this into a reality TV show than I originally thought. Because if he's got, like, I don't even know what other teams would be interested in him. So I don't know which GMs are there. But if it's like Chris McFarland and like 4 other GMs, and he's standing there handing out roses to dudes, I'm big mad that we aren't getting to watch this.
I hope he's milking it. I hope he's like asking every GM to take him out to dinner, to go see the city, to do all that stuff.
You mean he's not just sitting around on his phone on Zoom calls all day, just watching GMs pitch him their vision for
I know that's what he's actually doing, but I hope it was more of a jet set getaway type style thing where he can milk all these teams for every penny that they're worth. But it is interesting how patient Kadri's side has been, because we rarely see the proper big names with Gaudreau off the board, with the guys that signed on day one. Kadri is probably the biggest name left in free agency by quite a big margin. Maybe you throw Klingberg's name into that conversation too. But there's no rush here from Kadri's camp to get this done, it certainly seems.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Uh,
And look, the reality here is we don't know, man.
yep,
He could have decided. Like,
that's true.
let's be honest here. The reason that we're talking about this today is that he hasn't decided. The Avs haven't made any moves, and if I will say he hasn't officially decided publicly, we don't know. I mean, he could be watching the pod right now, just curious to see what kind of shit we're saying. But if he's decided he wants to come back to Colorado, then he has to wait for them to clear. I mean, he doesn't have to. They can exceed the cap.
But it would
And
be a whole lot easier of a spot for Colorado to clear it before he's here.
yeah, I mean, the Avs are going to lose that leverage anyway because teams are going to know.
Sure.
Oh, Colorado's calling us up and they're trying to dump some money on us.
I wonder
What
what's
could they possibly
happening.
have in the works? Like, come on. Um, so I just they're in that spot right now where they're just everybody's kind of waiting on each other
Yeah.
to make the decisions, and you wonder like most of the free agent money got spent already.
Yep.
Who else is really out there waiting for this?
$5 from Miss Truly here, who says, my take on Kadri says, cue Lady Gaga, caught in a bad romance. I'm not going to try and sing it with the voice I have right now. It's not happening.
Don't try and sing it ever. Only let Lady Gaga sing Lady
Heart you
Gaga.
guys. Fair enough. Fair enough. And it's a similar conversation to what we were having with Johnny Gaudreau, right?
Yeah,
There are some teams with money left out there, but Kadri has said winning is important to him. There aren't
yeah,
a lot of teams that you truly believe are contenders out there with that level of money left.
yeah,
So that's where it gets a little bit tighter. In the Avs case, the 3.9 million on cap friendly is roughly accurate. You have to do a little bit of mixing and matching. Swap in Ben Myers for Sedlak, and if Jack Johnson does end up signing, essentially Andreas Englund is his fill-in on
yeah,
cap friendly.
yeah. If you just erase Andreas Englund's name and write in Jack Johnson next to 750K,
You did it.
you're at
Good
you're
job.
at you're at roughly the right number. Uh, yeah. So 3 point. Yeah, you're looking at 3.9. Fine.
You're in the ballpark there, and 3.9 will not get it done with Kadri. Just so we're clear, the Avs
Right.
will need to clear probably at minimum at least 2 million of space there.
Yeah. I mean, considering you still need some wiggle room to be able to move around,
Yep,
it's probably a
like 3 or
few
4.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with that take. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But looking at Kadri specifically, are the Avs a little bit cup blind here? Because we talked about it all year that we do not expect a repeat of the season that Nazem Kadri had. It is a huge
Yeah.
outlier in his career.
It is. You're talking about a guy that like reliably was giving you roughly 50-ish, 55-ish points for a
A perfect,
decade.
a perfectly good 2C.
Yeah, and not talking shit, not dunking, not any of that. That's exactly what you want out of your second line center.
But
Like,
then you got all world play from him this entire season.
yeah, and he scored. I did. I mentioned this after they won the cup, but uh, Nathan MacKinnon. If you combine regular season and postseason, Nathan MacKinnon had 112 points this year.
Yep.
If you combine regular season and postseason, Nazem Kadri had 102 points this year. You got 1C production out of Nazem Kadri last year. True top line center stuff here.
Yep.
Out of Nazem Kadri because he missed the games played were similar in those point totals. It wasn't like one guy had
They
a
both
ton
missed
more.
like a dozen or so games in the
Yep.
regular season.
So and then Kadri missed some games in the postseason, obviously with the thumb. So
Yep.
you're really like you're talking about a guy that had just an insane year. and not it's completely out of line with the rest of his career. The weirdest part about it is, when we talked about Nichushkin and the red flags that exist, more
Yep.
minutes, production, shooting percentage, all these things that could add up to being gigantic red flags that come back and haunt the Avalanche.
Yep.
None of those things, outside of him being already 31 years old, and Kadri will be 32 at the start of next season.
Yep.
All of those things, none of those things exist with Kadri. There's no spike in play. There's no spike in shooting percentage. There wasn't a spike anywhere. He just played by far the best hockey of his life, surrounded by very talented players, and with all the injury issues that the Avalanche had, like he got plenty of time next to Colorado's top wings, but also plenty of time next to some of the lower guys too.
Yeah.
So you're talking about kind of a weird career, like a perfectly timed career year, but a
Yeah.
weird one in that none of the major outlying things are there that really
The
like tip off. Oh, hey, you could point to these things. He was just awesome.
well, and there's certainly no reason to believe he won't continue to be a quality player. I think you can find reasons to be he's not going to be a 100-point pace player, but in the immediate, I don't think there's any reason to believe he won't be a quality 2C for you.
But he could. I mean, there are guys though. I mean, look at Blake Wheeler's career.
Right. It's
Like,
it's not impossible that he continues. He has a renaissance and plays the best years of his career in his 30s.
right,
It's
and he
absolutely
just
possible.
his age 31, 32, 33, 34 seasons, he could just be a 90-point guy. He could just pop off.
Yep.
And I think if that ends up being the case, whatever contract, gets done here, if he were to return to the Avalanche and he plays that way, obviously you're fine making
Yeah.
whatever move you have to make to essentially have two first line centers with the wings that they have, with the defense that they have, like two first line centers, that kind of production. Incredible. Like, you're fine moving whoever you have to move.
Totally.
But
But
if that's not the case, if
unless you got a
he
crystal ball, you don't know that. So,
you're talking though, like the chance of that happening. You're trying to get the needle in the haystack that the Jets got with Blake Wheeler.
yep.
You're trying to get the one guy who for some reason turned 31 years old and was like, I guess I'm just a 90-point player for the next 5 years. I don't know why, guys. Like, this is just how it goes. And it doesn't make any sense, and it defies all aging curves. You're trying to buck a lot of
But
history here
what I
in
will,
re-signing him, and the personality, how important he was in the room. Like, you look at all the different factors, all the off ice stuff you love, but when the one thing that you just can't get past at any turn is that he's going to be 32, and
yep.
that you are banking against history here,
Well,
hard against history here.
so for the record, I'm not convinced by any stretch that Kadri will continue to be a 90-point guy. I'm seriously concerned about the aging curve. But if there's one thing the Avs definitely have the advantage on, he just put up 87 points on the Avs second line, playing with players like Val Nichushkin when he was here playing alongside an Arturi Lehkonen. When they drop a guy down like Landeskog or Rantanen, it was to play next to Kadri. And they lost Burakovsky, I guess, but a
Yeah,
significant number of the pieces still around Kadri will still be there if he decides to come back to Colorado. So there's a functional ecosystem there that works for that guy. That's an advantage the Avs have that none of these other teams do. Where if he goes
yeah.
somewhere else, you don't have that familiarity. You're not sure exactly what you're going to get out of him in that spot.
The system, the role, the personality, the coaching staff, all of that stuff, uh, all of that stuff is stuff that fits, stuff that we know works for him. And as you mentioned, now his most common line mate last year is Andre Burakovsky.
Yeah.
That guy's gone. Next after that, though, Val Nichushkin.
Yep. Who
And
is
then
definitely here.
I will ask you, do you know who his next most common line mate was?
Uh,
His third most common forward line mate in a year in which he scored 87 points.
so my guess initially would be Gabe Landeskog, but the way you phrase that makes me think it's like JT Compher or something.
You got 4 and 5. Number 3 is
Yeah.
Logan O'Connor.
Wow.
Logan O'Connor was his third most common line mate, with Gabe Landeskog and JT Compher and Mikko Rantanen all slotting in just a few minutes behind.
And so that's a dude that, like, may even to more reiterate my point, that's a dude who can play with just about anyone on this lineup for the Avs, and it's worked. Granted, we know he has to play as a center, basically. He doesn't really work well on the wing, but it's an interesting spot specifically because the whole market is waiting on this, right? Dylan Strome's still out there. There's Paul Stastny still out there. There's a number of centers
Evan Rodriguez still out
Evan
there.
Rodriguez, of lesser caliber than Kadri, for sure.
Absolutely.
But when Kadri goes, you're going to see this cascade effect happen throughout the league of going to their plan B guys. So we will get into that as well. We are brought to you, of course, by DraftKings Sportsbook. You can use code DNVR when you sign up over there to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Right now, when you sign up with the DNVR code, you can get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. So jump on that. You can bet up to $1,000, and if the bet does not hit, you get $1,000 back to try and bet it again, so you can, actually hit it on the second time if you need it. Of course, you can throw down on all of the sports out there. I've been throwing some bets on the Open, which just started overnight. I put a Rory to finish top 10, and that's looking real good after day one. So feeling good there. You can bet on any sorts of nonsensical sports. And we're going to find another sport AJ doesn't know someday and explain it to him live on air again. It's going to be fun. Which, what is the drone racing league back yet? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't really kept up with that one because that one was always a fun one during the off season as well. So head on over to DraftKings, download their sportsbook app now. Be sure to use the promo code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get that risk-free bet up to $1,000. Of course, must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Hey, we're back to the old one. I'm here for it. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook. If you have a gambling problem, of course, call 1-800-522-4700. We're also brought to you by Green Mountain Dental. Just 15 minutes from downtown over in Lakewood. They're the best damn family dentist in the Denver metro area. You can get over there. They're great at what they do. They make sure they take care of you. They're effective. They're fast. When you get a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with them, you get a free Sonicare toothbrush, so you can better take care of your teeth at home as well. So go check out Green Mountain Dental today. Everyone who's joined the beat has loved them. Jesse rants and raves about how good they are as a dentist, and Jesse hates the dentist. So take his word for it, if nothing else. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. So the big question for me is, you already mentioned it, Kadri will be 32 when next season starts. One, what term do you think he gets? And two, how important is term for him? And I know you can't really answer that because you're not Nazem Kadri, but
yeah, I think it's a big part of this because this is the last contract. This is the last big contract of his career. He's not taking a 3-year deal, man. Like, it just wouldn't make any sense for him.
It's really the only big contract of his career. He was fairly underpaid on his last deal.
Yeah, I mean, not that making just under $5 million is a bad living, but
sure, but
by the end of it, you were he has got 87 points out of that thing last year. They're pretty thrilled with that cost efficiency.
Yeah. So
I think he's gonna Can you guys give an example of a terrible contract that didn't age well? Go back and look at the entire free agent class of 2016.
Literally every single one.
Yep. Anyway, I would say that the term that I think is the sweet spot for Nas right now is 5 years, because 6, 7, you're gonna really struggle.
You're really pushing to age 38 for
Yeah,
the and again, I always mention this, but Nas is a guy that does have a physical edge to his game, and that gets harder as you get older.
yeah. Certainly the toll that it takes on the body, et cetera, for sure.
That now look, that isn't to say clearly Nas has offensive gifts and abilities that beyond just being a guy who runs into people,
Yeah,
but it's something you do have to take into account. Yeah, I think you're right. The 5 years is the number where no one feels good about it. So
yeah.
that's probably the right number. Yeah.
He feels like he probably left a year or two on the table, but a team isn't sitting there going, "Oh God, we're absolutely buying this thing out."
Yeah.
In the last year or two.
Yeah. You're not totally stuck with it.
Bless you.
So
So, yeah, no, I think 5 years is probably that pain point there
yeah.
that everybody's got to live with. I don't. How important is it to him? I mean, I guess he's got to have it. Like he can't take a 3-year deal or whatever.
Yeah. It's look, he's not getting any younger either. He's got a family.
Yeah,
He's certainly
this is
thinking
it.
about yeah, exactly.
Like this is the last big opportunity probably of his lifetime here to cash in at this level.
Yep.
Not that he can't go and make plenty of money after his career, but it probably won't be somebody going, "Hey, here's $30 million." So I think that that's probably uh, you know for me I'm more curious about what the number ends up, because
Sure.
I think term look, if he really just wanted to be in Colorado, maybe he ends up at 4. And if he really just wanted to go be somewhere else, and take
Someone
maximum
will
money
give
in
him
the end,
6. Yeah.
yeah, he takes 6 or something. But the money on it, I mean, it's not going to be like 5, but I don't know how it can be. I guess if it's the Avs, it can't be 8. But
Can it even be 7 if it's the Avs? I don't know.
well, that's where you have the Sam Girard conversation. You say you
Sure.
trade Sam Girard, you get no money back. It's purely futures,
Yep.
picks, prospects, like whatever it ended up being. That cleans out 5 million for you. You're at 3.9. That puts you at 8.9. That means you can sign him and still have a little bit
Have
of wiggle room
7
there.
and flexibility. $5
Yeah.
from Garrett here says any chance they move JTC, sign a cheaper 3C to make room for
Well,
Kadri.
so it's just not a lot of. You're at 3.9. If you move JTC, you move out 3.5. That puts you at 7.4.
But then you need
And
another forward. Yeah.
then okay. So if Kadri's going to take 6, great. But now you only have $1 million to spend on your
And you're
3C.
not getting a 3C for $1 million. Yeah.
So you're in this conver or a right wing. Like that's where Logan O'Connor ends up as your third line right wing because you just don't have another option there.
Yeah.
So that's why we're having the conversation about Sam Girard and not JT Compher.
The other, like, the two conversations to me, it's not Compher. It's Sam Girard or buying out Eric Johnson or theoretically trading EJ, but he has an NMC, so it's hard to
So
do.
buying out Eric Johnson is almost the same problem as with JT Compher. It only gives you 500. It
You
only
get
gives you
that,
500K more in space.
but we're operating under the idea that Jack Johnson's coming in anyway, so there's less of that. You have to go out and get another D conversation, at least a D that applies a cap hit to you.
Well, I think if you move Girard, you do need to go get another one because okay, great, you've added Jack Johnson, but now your seventh guy is Eric Johnson. If you buy him out, you still need to go and get another guy. So you'll add Eric Johnson,
I
you'll add Jack Johnson. getting my
Sure, but
Johnsons
you can
rotated.
go get a 750K guy that you can bury in the minors if you're really trying to work the cap. If you get rid of Jack Johnson, if you get rid of Sam Girard, feels like you have to go out and get another real defenseman.
And so I would hate giving up Sam Girard for a few reasons. One, you've got your three guys that you're trying to build around here for the foreseeable future in Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, and Sam Girard. 24, 23, and 21 years old, okay? Those are three guys that you can say Devon Taves leaves, Eric Johnson leaves, eventually
Yeah,
Josh Manson leaves. Like, these are the three guys that are going to be Colorado's defense for a long time.
that from a personal note, I'm taking the defensive three-headed monster over bringing Kadri back every single time. If it were
Every
up to me.
single time.
If
And
that if that's what it comes down to, yeah.
that's where look, I'm not going to get into the what could Sam Girard get in a trade, because I don't know. I don't know, and let's be real here, it would not be the same kind of value that it would be. Like, it would not be like, they're not going to get Pierre-Luc Dubois for Sam Girard.
Well, again, you're pigeonholed yourself here if you're the Avs trading him, because the only reason you're trading him is to make room for Kadri. So that means your acquisition is prospects and picks. Full stop. You're not taking on any money for Sam Girard if you're trading him for Kadri.
Right. You can't take any of that back. So you're taking on futures, and you're like, hey, maybe you can get a first round pick, maybe you can get 2 seconds, maybe you can get a second and a prospect that you really like.
There's some value there, but nitpicking this pick, that pick, it's
Yeah,
just not the reason they're making the trade. Yeah.
I'm just not interested in going down that road. I don't know what that interest would be. The point would be that they're getting rid of the salary.
Yep.
They're cleaning that out. Not just not interested there. So but the idea is that Girard is kind of that sweet spot. He makes $5 million. You did just have a second half of a playoff run in which you were successful without him.
Yep. It worked. It's certainly the Avs won a Stanley Cup. So
Yeah, but you also know, like, how much better are you with Sam Girard next to Josh Manson all season long,
right.
versus the Sam Girard the Sam Girard just is coming off of the worst year of his career, and he was saddled next to Jack Johnson for a decent chunk of it.
Well, and
But Girard also had his own problem. Like, Jack Johnson isn't like the reason Sam Girard had his worst year of his career, but it was his worst year. So now you're talking, okay, great. Now it's a guy that his value is even lower because he's not coming off of a very good year.
It just protects you also. Look, Josh Manson was great for the Avs. I think he'll continue to be a good defenseman for the Avs. But you have that guy signed for 4 years. That's going to take him till he's 35. If he starts to fall off that cliff and you don't have a Sam Girard to back up that top four, your second pairing starts to look a little bit dicey, because Taves very likely gone at the end of this contract in a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Makar and Byram there, which is great.
Yeah.
But what was arguably the best top four in the league is now two really good guys and a second pairing that is,
which is where a lot of teams sit.
For sure. It's one of the advantages the Avs had.
And the push and pull of this is that you can live without Sam Girard in the immediate. This next year,
for sure,
is Sam Girard like a vital piece of your cup defense? Probably not. But the year after that, immediately, because Eric Johnson's contract expires. Let's just say they don't bring him back at all. That no re-signing, no anything. Well, you're gonna want Sam Girard around for that, and then Devon Taves, you're gonna want Sam Girard around for that. Girard is he's just a very solid NHL player. He's not a top pairing defender. I think we've learned that ceiling just isn't quite there.
Yeah,
but
he's a second pairing guy for sure.
He's very, very good at what he does well, and he's just, I think he's underappreciated.
I agree.
But I don't think he's underappreciated by the Avalanche.
The organization, I agree.
Yeah.
I do think the fan base is very much has their "what have you done for me lately" glasses on, which like the Avs won a cup for them lately, so obviously I understand that. But Girard has been such a solid piece that his worst year with the Avalanche is the one not only the Avs go win a cup in, but he had what 23 points in the regular season for them.
28.
28, so even more than I thought, and that's his worst year in Colorado.
Not counting that, like, he didn't play the first year we showed up
He,
as a 19-year-old, he
yeah,
had a 20-point
he
season.
played half part of the year here or whatever.
He ended
Yeah.
up, he actually played 68 games that year. This last season, he only played 67.
Yep.
It was the first year that he actually battled injuries. Because he had been, and I saw people talking about how he was too brittle. That guy lost his Ironman streak because of COVID,
Yep.
not because of injury.
He got COVID and lost the streak.
Yeah.
It's and the other thing about Sam Girard is stylistically he fits so well in what Colorado is trying to be
Yeah.
defensively.
He was a big part of setting it up,
Yep.
getting it started.
Having the
He,
moving ability, not just the puck, but with his feet as well. Excuse
yeah.
me.
Well, and Sam Girard's a good in zone defender.
Absolutely.
He's a good defender. He's got his, like, he's not good in front of his own net. He's a little weak along the wall at
Well,
times.
neither are the Avs. Hey.
Fair enough. But like, you're talking like he's got his limitations there, but every defenseman that they bring in is going to. They just re-signed Josh Manson. Most of us are pretty cool with it,
Yeah.
knowing that Josh Manson's going to make some like brutal mistakes here.
But and like, why do you like Josh Manson so much? Well, because he does a lot of the things Sam Girard doesn't.
Right? They
They,
complement each other
yeah,
so well. Part of
exactly.
the appeal of Josh Manson is putting him next to Sam Girard. And I know a lot of people have talked about, oh, well, Girard's he makes $5 million to play on your third pairing. But that's not how he got used.
Yeah,
When they had the full lineup healthy, Josh
'cause
Manson
it's
and Eric Johnson were your fifth and sixth guys
yep,
because they elevated Byram, they elevated Girard. They put those guys out. They found ways to put those guys out there together.
yep,
And not all the time, but often enough that they were still playing their top guys the most.
yep,
And when we talked about Manson re-signing yesterday, part of the appeal was, hey, this gives them 2 second pairings. And on any given night, one of those pairings not very good. The other one plays more.
yeah. And you ride the hot hand. Absolutely. It's such they grant so much flexibility, and it's an advantage that I don't really think any team in the league has that the Avs had over this last year. The team that has come closest over recent history is Nashville with that super juggernaut defense.
Hmm.
But
But they didn't have anything to forward,
right,
even close to Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen.
yep. The Avs were still able to play offense through their forwards, which Nashville was never really able to do.
Yep.
And again, I just think it's such a huge advantage. We have a couple super chats to get to here. $2 from Miss Truly says, which team still needs a center? Options dwindling. When it's Nazem Kadri, if you can afford him, every team needs him.
Yeah, I would say the teams that I'm most interested in, honestly, like you look at Anaheim is still sitting on a ton of money. They just signed Ryan Strome. Look, that's not going to be the uh, like winning situation that Colorado is, but they fancy themselves a team kind of on the come up here. They would like, and in the Pacific Division, is anybody really truly ever out of it? That division
Nope.
sucks.
Yep.
You know, you wonder, okay, how does Calgary pivot?
Yeah, Calgary is an interesting one to me too, with Gaudreau gone.
Okay, so how does Calgary pivot now? I know Johnny Gaudreau's a wing and Nazem Kadri's a center and blah, blah. That's a thing that they can figure out though. Like that should not be. New Jersey's the only one of those teams where you're like, you really don't need Nazem Kadri.
Yeah, that they're center rich as hell for sure.
Yeah, I wonder. I also wonder about the Islanders were willing to spend that money on Gaudreau. Nazem Kadri screams a Lou Lamoriello type guy. So I wonder about that. I wonder about them.
I don't know.
I
Kadri
have been
likes his
saying
beard, though.
I have been saying for a million years now that I think Nazem Kadri signing with the Dallas Stars makes far too much sense.
Yeah, they have to sign Ottinger still, though, and
And
Robertson.
Robertson. So I know
So
that
that's awfully tight.
they've got commitments. I understand. But again, like yeah. I think that they could have those types of conversations. I'm less convinced about the Boston thing because Bergeron and Krejci.
Yeah.
But I also wonder,
Nashville, maybe.
Nashville was kind of like a team that I was sort of curious about.
Yeah.
Would they really do it? But I don't know. I'm not sure there. I'm not trading Sam Girard today with the hope that Sean Barons takes that place. Maybe with the
That could be 2 years down the line
yeah,
for sure.
like
But
yeah,
and
yeah,
$2 from Colin really quick here, saying plus he looks great in a plastic fireman's helmet. Speaking about Kadri.
Girard.
Oh, Girard, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's I think those are the angles of the Girard thing. You want him long term. It would really be a very, very, very short-sighted thing for them to do to move Girard now in order to keep Kadri. There's nobody out here that's hanging out in chat or whatever that says having a good 2C isn't important. I'm not thrilled by the idea of just letting it fly with Alex Newhook. I think it would be fun just because I think Alex Newhook is capable of it in time. I certainly don't.
So there are a couple of avenues here that the Avs could take.
Okay.
Um, I don't think let it fly with Alex Newhook is a real option. I think the let it fly with
really
Alex
don't
Newhook
either.
option is Mikko Rantanen is your 2C, really.
Yeah, I think that's where you start, and then
And if Newhook comes up on the year, great, you're good. But I think that route is you make it work with Mikko or Landeskog or whoever you want as your 2C until the trade deadline, and then you solve it there. With potentially Newhook on the come up, that works for you.
sure.
The other more realistic option is take your pick of Dylan Strome, Evan Rodriguez, maybe throw Paul Stastny in there.
Well, and if you're doing that, pick the guy that can skate.
Which is Rodriguez.
Yeah, pick the guy that can skate. Now, he's probably got the lowest upside, but he's got the highest defensive ceiling. And if you put that guy next to one of Lehkonen or Nichushkin, you're really feeling like they're going to be able to move, man.
And I do think a lot of this does depend on how you feel about Alex Newhook. The better you feel about Alex Newhook, the better you're going to feel about the Avs going out and trying a Rodriguez or a Strome at their 2C position.
Yeah, because if that doesn't work out and Newhook plays great, you just swap them, and then that guy ends up on your third line, and you're feeling a lot better about it.
Yep.
If you go and you get Paul Stastny to be your 2C and he ends up as your third left wing, it's not like the worst outcome, but
right.
it's not really what you were after.
Agreed. And look, if you're not a believer in Alex Newhook, or you're not a believer that the Avs could solve this position at the trade deadline or in some other way, then you start to see how you could value Kadri very, very highly as a must acquire for Colorado in a sense of looking to move out other potential key pieces.
And if you're getting into the trade market, which is the market that actually makes me the most nervous, because the Avs don't really have much left in the way of assets here.
That 2023 first is kind of
and then
Sean Barons, I guess,
and Oscar Olsen, like you're picking.
Yeah, sure. The usual prospects here and there.
Can you talk somebody into taking top draft pick Chris Romaine?
It is their first pick of the draft. So,
but you do. But like for me, I would wonder. What if you made a phone call to Florida about like Sam Bennett?
Sure.
Where they're very, they're like, I guess maybe that's your Girard conversation is instead of
Trade him
futures.
for a 2C.
Yeah, if you could trade him for the 2C, because I guess if you're going to trade him for the 2C, you would want to have the conversation about a guy like Dubois, right?
Yeah, you're definitely having more of that conversation if that's the route you're taking. $2 late here from Jimmy, who says, we're going on day 2 of free agency. Who's holding out? It's not that anyone's holding out. It's just that Kadri's taking his time, and Kadri is holding up the entire center market at this point. Once
Yeah.
Kadri has decided, a bunch of other centers will come off the board to teams.
Well, because teams that are involved will want to make decisions here on, okay, well, let's go with, okay, there's a Dylan Strome and Evan Rodriguez, a Paul Stastny, whatever.
Yep. I mean, who are realistic? If you're looking to trade for a 2C, what are realistic targets beyond just Sam Bennett here?
I mean, Dubois, for real.
Sure.
Like, just the problems, the problems with Winnipeg and, finding the fit there. I just don't know what you wanted. Like, I don't know what you're getting.
Yep.
Like, is he the guy that was really motivated at the start of last year and looked like he was going to take over? Or is he the guy that just kind of poo-pooed at the end of the year? Granted, most of that team did. And then there's all the talk about, he doesn't want to sign. He wants to get into free agency. Blah 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 blah.
What ritual would I have to perform to get Phil to know for Sam Girard? I know it would never happen. But
if Quentin Byfield had broken out,
yeah, then it'd be a conversation.
I think you could talk about it. But because that hasn't happened, they still need him.
Yep.
But no, I think really that's where you would go back to Florida and you would say, okay, how about Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett? One of these guys that they've invested in, because ask him about Anton Lundell if you want.
Yeah, you're more of a Lundell guy than I am, for sure.
I mean, after the year that he just had,
I know it's hard to argue with this year. I get it, but
he'd be a bad style fit for the Avs.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever.
Not the point. Yeah.
Yeah, Pajot. Jesus, Pajot. That contract is just such a bad one.
I would not touch Gabe Vilardi.
Same.
Dudes with back injuries are just so spooky.
Yeah, same. Funny enough, what about a guy like Yanni Gourde?
Out of Seattle? Yeah. How old is he?
30.
So, yeah.
He's 3 years left at $5.1 million.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of like at this
that's
point,
pretty reasonable. Yeah,
it would be very similar to running back the Kadri thing.
Yeah, I assuming Kadri becomes that 60-ish point guy again, I really don't think Yanni Gourde's that different.
Yeah. So, maybe a little more tilted towards the defensive side, but
yeah,
it could be interesting.
There are options. It's just so hard to work out exactly the right trade value when you're trying to make a hockey trade. It's so difficult.
And the real thing that I think they would want to get into is they wouldn't want to go and trade for maybe an established 2C, but maybe a 3C that just needs more opportunity. Who's the hidden gem there?
They've always been very aggressive at looking for guys that you can promote into their system and shine, for sure.
And Chad has mentioned his name several times, so I would like to throw them a bone on that. But Christian Dvorak, for sure, would fit that bill as a guy with some center history who's been
give
pretty
him some
good
opportunity type thing. Yeah,
he signed, so you don't have to worry about it. You just get him, and then, if Montreal is gonna go get PLD, I guess I was just assuming that Dvorak could be part of a PLD.
Yeah.
Because the Jets would be like, we want somebody who's fucking signed. We're tired of this. But no, I would. Yeah, I guess if you're gonna look for the under the radar guy, just sign Rodriguez. He's a free agent.
It's more
Coming off
streamlined.
of a 40-point
It
year,
makes more
he's got
sense.
great underlings. Like,
And again, you can go that route and not do any damage to other parts of your roster.
yeah,
That's
you
the
just
real
don't
big
touch it.
key. Yep.
Now, if you're wrong, and Evan Rodriguez finished the postseason on Pittsburgh's fourth line.
Sure.
So, like, if you're wrong and he falls apart, then that's a huge problem spot for you. But you do still have a trade deadline to address it. It's not like,
Yep.
oh no, they don't. If they don't solve this and they end up wrong about it in December, they're screwed
The
forever.
the if you're wrong literally applies to every single move we've talked about here.
True. I mean, if
So
they go out and they do all this work, if they do all this work and Nazem Kadri craters immediately,
right.
you're in. That's maybe like the worst outcome possible
Yeah.
because you've done all this work, you've committed money and term and all this to Kadri, and he's not any good anymore. And oh God, what are we going to do?
Yep.
Like that could sink if they're wrong about if they make the Kadri commitment and they're wrong about it, that could sink the cup window.
It absolutely can. It's if you end up with an anchor that was supposed to be in your top six, that's how windows go to die.
Yep.
Any final thoughts here, AJ, as we're wrapping up the pod?
Just don't trade Sam Girard for nothing.
Agreed.
If you're going to move Sam Girard, you've got to get him. You've got to get something meaningful
Significant
for him.
value in
You
return,
have
for
to.
sure.
You can't just dump him. You can't do what Vegas did and just giving players away like Max Pacioretty.
Yep.
You just can't.
Agreed.
You're asking for final thought. I guess the last thing I would like to touch on before we get out of here. We've talked a little bit about the McKinnon extension, and we talked about how we thought that the Gaudreau deal could have a small impact on it. It coming in under 10, does that keep the dream alive for Max signing for 10.5, 10.75?
I think it might keep the dream alive of him signing for 11.
Okay.
I don't know if I just don't know if I see it under 11. I think it's tough.
So since Gaudreau became a regular, he's outscored McKinnon in the regular season.
Sure.
Now there are certain things here. McKinnon's a center.
Yeah.
McKinnon's a monster the last several years, and
his defense has also trended in the right direction.
And his postseason performance is real
otherworldly.
strong.
Yeah.
It's real strong. So, no doubt he's going to make more than 9.75.
Yeah. That's
But if Gaudreau had signed for 10.5, that would have felt like the death of that dream.
If Gaudreau signed for 10.5, I'm like, all right, 12 is the floor for McKinnon.
Yeah. So I'm still planning for it to be 12.
Me too. But maybe.
But if the door is open for 10.5, then maybe, you can I don't know, get out your crystals and I don't know, bath salts, whatever you got to do in order to make that happen. Try and will it to be.
All right. Well, the Avs do have their little 4-on-4 scrimmage with the rookies tonight. So that's a thing if you're local and you want to check that out at Family Sports Center. Knowing the Avs, they'll probably get their center done in the middle of that scrimmage. So that'll be fun.
Don't you dare say that.
We'll see. Obviously, whenever the Avs do decide to make that
they will
move,
be middle of that scrimmage, and we'll look over, and McFarland will be on the phone locking that thing down.
Yeah, in a panic, running around the room.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes sometimes. But whenever the Avs do make their move, whatever it may be, you can find it right here. Great time to get a DNVR Avalanche membership. Go check out Megan's notebooks on a dev camp if you want the inside deets on some of that stuff. She takes very detailed notes.
She's taking notes this morning. You actually got to watch them live? Did you have any takeaways, or was that, oh God, they don't have nameplates on? I don't know who any of these guys are.
I mean, we talked about it. Ambrosio's speed obviously flashed a ton. Mm-hmm. I did like Barons. I thought Barons was very calm, very poised for a guy at a dev camp. You see some of those invite kids that are like, oh my God, this is a NHL organization that I have the opportunity to go to a dev camp with, and they're a little amped, put it that way. Barons seemed right at home, so I did like that too.
And you do, guys that show up to their first NHL camps can get squirrely. So, he won a national championship though. So if he's squirrely at a dev camp,
Yeah, it's true. It's
girl,
true.
come on. But no, I same guy. I mean, we were sitting next to each other.
I did like, if we're going a little deeper, Ben
Yeah.
Tardif was on his line. I liked him too today.
See, I'm a Pfizer guy.
I know you've been a Pfizer guy for 2 years.
Yeah.
I
I do really wonder if we're headed for a Terran Pfizer ELC this year.
Maybe. $2 late here from our moisters saying 10.875 for Mac, 87 by 8. Book it. Look, if that's the deal, I'll be happy. I would take it in a heartbeat.
Right?
Yeah, so it depends. Like, obviously, we can't emergency pod. If AJ's at FSC, it would be a little bit difficult.
God, that Wi-Fi trying to emergency pod, kill me now.
Yeah, but if the
I'd be better off doing that shit driving home. Just having Z hold up the phone while I shouted things at it.
If they do something, we will do a pod about it at some point. I will put it to you that way.
Yeah.
So you can find it here. But we're out of here for today. We appreciate all of y'all a ton. We will be live tomorrow no matter what. So be sure to tune into that show. And until the next one, we will talk to you later.